Hey guys, welcome back to another segment of our esports content, another CSGO breakdown. I am super excited to be breaking down the second DreamHack slate tomorrow. I love how it's set up. 3 games is the perfect size slate. They're all spread out. We get the late slate and the showdown. So I think if it's a time that you're thinking about hopping into CSGO, the format for the slates and for viewers to be able to watch during the day. You're not trying to flip between 2 or 3 games going on at once while you're sweating your lineups. So I'm glad to have you back. Hopefully you were able to check out our episode yesterday with Ryan Hodge. We really appreciate him coming on and kind of giving us another perspective and insight on DFS strategy with CSGO and just some CSGO terminology and information for maybe some of us that are less accustomed to the actual gameplay and more focused on the DFS side. If there's other people out there that would love to come on and do a show with me, I'm very open. It's always nice having 2 people to bounce ideas off of rather than just solo. So feel free to reach out to me on Twitter and we will set something up. So tomorrow's slate, well, first of all, I'm going to back up quick. I'm going to talk quickly about just one thing with today's slate. We saw Astralis struggle compared to Road to Rio. For those of you that were in our Discord channel, I did notify everybody when Glaive was ruled out, which definitely changed some things up. Yugi was signed recently, so he was inserted into the lineup, but it did give the IGL, the in-game leader, over to Magisk, which I ended up fading for Dupree because of that, thinking that he might have taken a little bit more of a backseat role in terms of DFS value. That did not seem to be the case. He did outscore Dupree, I think, by at least 10, if not more. So I do think that could change going forward, but it's just good to know that he is the one that is going to be the IGL, the one that is calling the shots while also playing. So again, as Ryan and I talked about before, that there are some that are really good at handling it, but typically you see it more with a 4th or 5th guy on the team that might not be racking up as many kills. So Magisk still a great play. Just know that he does have the IGL tag, and Glaive is out. That is just another good point that I really track hltv.org before the games. I think the day before, Kriez was ruled out for Simon. He was only about 6% owned. I don't think a lot of people are getting there anyway, but 6% in the GPP still can end up being a nice edge late down the road. Glaive today was owned 11% in the biggest GPP. So starting off the bat, you at least cut out some of your rake if you didn't pay Glaive. All right, so let's jump into today's slate. We're going to start with our odds as we always do. G2 and Heroic. G2 coming at around a -250 favorite against Heroic. Heroic did look not bad against Astralis. I mean, they had a big lead on the second map. They came back and brought it to OT on the first map. So I definitely think there's some things to like here. And I think a G2 team that was really vulnerable today, that times looked awesome, where Hunter was basically unstoppable with a rifle. And then other times where the tactical approach from G2 kind of went out the window, and that gave North a chance. So I think the G2 roller coaster will continue, and I don't think they just roll over Heroic, even though Heroic is probably an easier opponent than North. But what I do love is the pricing that we have here on our G2 guys. They are not really getting the respect I don't think they should on this slate. I think DK did a much better job pricing this slate after they initially put it up and took it down. But we'll talk about some of those other prices that I think are a little bit more appropriate and make it a little bit more difficult to build for casual players. But G2, those top 3 really stand out. Hunter, Kenny S, and Nexa. Now, when you have to decide which 2 or 3 you're playing, I mean, if you're going to play all 3, that's fine. I think at the mid-7 range, I think they all are certainly capable of smashing their value. But as you saw today, you know, Nexa played pretty poorly, while Kenny S and Hunter both paid off their price tags. So, and Hunter especially, but Kenny S came on at the end with an ace on the 3rd map. But I think it is really hard to see a scenario where all three of them, hit that 70-point threshold in the same match. So it's certainly possible, but I will definitely lean towards taking two of them. Hunter's recent play, I think, started to suppress his price a little bit. But recently, in the last week, he's definitely ramped up that play, because he does have some of the best longer term numbers for G2 with this lineup together. Amanek is certainly viable now at 5,800. His price went down. He played pretty poorly today. I was really hoping they would just sweep. He was decent on map 2, and I knew if he went to the third map, certainly wasn't going to be putting up 20 points. And he certainly wasn't going to be gaining ground on Jax or Nexa or any of the other players for G2. So I think he's viable if you think there's a 2-0 sweep. There's some other value that I really like as well that I don't really know if you need to plug him in. On Heroic, we have Tessis, which I remember Ryan and I talked about yesterday. He's a former Copenhagen Flames player. Played pretty well today against Astralis. And then we go down to Niko, Staven, I think it's Borup, and so I'm not really on Heroic here. I mean, it would have to be enough of a discount on Tessis to even think about it, maybe in GPPs. But again, in cash, not a lot of times am I targeting an underdog unless they are severely underpriced, and I don't think they are in this case. So G2, your favorite targets are going to be Hunter, Kenny, and Nexa, which I know seems really obvious, and kind of delineating which one you're going to take is kind of difficult. I personally lean Kenny S and then one of the other two. Getting somebody using the AWP and then balancing it out with one of the guys who's going to be more aggressive with the rifle. So I think that is a great way to attack G2. Again, I'm equally as confident in them as I was today. I kind of expected North to probably take a map, but not play them like as well as they did. So let's move to North and Astralis. Device is finally getting the respect that he deserves. It was pretty amazing to see him on Inferno. He just dominated at Train by far. He really came on late. I don't remember what his KDD was, but he destroyed Heroic on that first map at Train. Then in Inferno on the T side, he went 1-12, which was insane. 1-12, and they were down to start, but the team did come back. I think I ended the first map 10-5, maybe they were down. I don't really remember, but once he got to the CT side and he was able to line up that AWP, he went 18-5 on the second half of that map and really saved his performance. I think he ended with 74. If he would have just played probably average in that first half of the second map, you would have been pushing 85, 90 points potentially. So I still think he is on this slate one of the best plays in terms of raw player point projections. I do think at 10,200, it's at a price tag we normally see Zaiwu, it's Simple, and Niko on a couple slates. And I do think that he can definitely be in that same conversation. I just think, it's going to be tough to pay off that price tag, I think. I think he's capable of doing it, but I don't think that he's my number one priority to lock in right away. And even Magisk 2, I feel like is slightly overpriced with the IGL tag and just with some up and down recent performance. I still think I prefer going down to Zipix at 7,200, which I think is too cheap. And then they also have a new player, Yugi, who I think is certainly viable. A new player coming into a new team, figuring out his role and how he's going to, fit in with the team is not something that I am crazy about from a DFS perspective. So I think I'm going to take a wait and see approach with that. But Dupree obviously sticks out and I think will be really chalky at 6,400. He played okay today, 54 points, didn't really pay off his tag probably with at least how the comparable Hunter and Magisk played. But Dupree at 6,400 is probably the best value point per dollar play on the slate. With him sporting a 0.7 kill per round, I think that's a really great place to go. North, AZ with a 30 kill first map against G2 and then just fell off a cliff the next. He had a couple nice plays at Inferno, but other than that, he didn't perform all that well. And again, at an $8,400 price tag, there's not a chance in the world I'm considering him against Astralis. So he is a pass for me in cash. Go ahead and maybe take a stab if you're playing multi-entry, GPP. But again, you likely then would be not playing any Astralis and really hoping for AZ to carry the load there, which he can certainly do. It just doesn't seem like a spot that'll happen. The last game, the afternoon game versus Furia and MIBR. Oh, sorry, just to say the odds. I didn't touch on the odds for Astralis and North, but Astralis about minus 400 to minus 500 favorites. And then Furia is coming in at, close to 200, minus 200, minus 250 favorites. And I think part of that is they have kind of had MIBR's number in the past. So I think this game seems to be what will be the most competitive. But I do think it does come to a point where you are trying to decide, what side of this game you want. I think you can do a 2-1 in cash if you feel like a 2 players from Furia, 1 from MIBR, if you think the price is definitely worth it, which I think for MIBR here, we've typically seen Fallen, be their most expensive player by far, and his price is pretty cheap, 7,000. So I can't talk you off of him, especially if you think MIBR keeps this close or has a chance here. I think he even, put up a 70 or 80 point game against them at Road to Rio. KNG is going to be at 5,400. I think is going to be a really popular punt, even though he's on an underdog, just because his talent level is far beyond that price tag. And if it is a competitive match, I think that is definitely a place to go and to find value in somebody as an underdog. So again, that would kind of go against some of the cash rules of playing underdogs or playing players against guys that are in your lineup, because that is negative correlation, especially long term. It just, you're not going to optimize your lineup that way. But I think Furia has obviously K Serrato at 9,400 is certainly in play. I'll bring up their stats as a team. Him and Hen 1, clearly the top 2 players here. With Yuri at coming in as a 3rd and Art as the IGL. And Vinny are 2 guys I'm not really considering here at all. I don't think they sweep, and I don't want to try to pay for them expecting them to sweep. So if we go to Hen 1 is incredibly cheap, I feel like, at 7,000 for his ability, and the fact that he's actually more expensive than Yuri here by 1,000. I think they should be pretty close in price. I think both of them are in play, but I do prefer Hen 1 just based on the price. And K Serrato would be my other favorite target here for Furia. So that's kind of how I would attack that game. I think in GPPs, you could stack MIBR and fade Furia. You could stack one side and not the other. Game stacking, I don't really think is ideal. I mean, you would need some overtimes and super competitive matches, but again, just that negative correlation where, and when I'm talking negative correlation, if you have K Serrato and you also have KNG, if K Serrato kills KNG, you're only gaining a 0.5 point on that kill. You're not gaining the 1.5 points. So just think about that long term. You're always limiting your upside in those cases. So again, just kind of recap, favorite couple of plays on the slate are going to be the G2 guys here, Kenny S, Hunter, also looking down at Dupree is one of my favorite value plays. And then I think you probably are paying for one of these 2 studs, whether it is Device or it is K Serrato. And then you could even finish your lineup off with KNG at captain, which I probably would not suggest in cash. I just don't think that's probably a positive EV play to completely punt at captain with an underdog. But I do think he's definitely in play. So when you are building your lineups tomorrow morning, really think about the favorites. Think about think about the guys that you think are priced appropriately. Who do you think might be overpriced? And try to correlate those plays. Yeah, I think that definitely should bring you hopefully some success tomorrow. I'm super excited to see the ownership, because I think with the pricing being a little bit more appropriate, with Device finally getting that bump, Quesarado getting a bump, I think we do see a little bit more ownership spread out on the top end. I do think we see Dupree and KNG being pretty popular at the bottom. So you can continue to stay on. I'm going to just do a little bit of a lineup study, checking out today's slate. And I'm going to first look at Showdown with Team Liquid and Chaos. I mean, talk about just a roller coaster game. So here I am, I think I have probably, I thought I had the chalkiest lineup. It did seem to, I kind of increased my volume just because I thought a lot of my lineups in my head-to-head contest would be duplicated. Come to find out that a lot of people were playing Stewie 2K over Twist, which I was really excited about, especially after seeing, Twist ownership on Classic, I think was pretty high, and for good reason. It was pretty clear that Elige, Nath, and Twist are the top three players on their team. But Team Liquid being one of the best teams in the world, going up against Chaos, who's got two new players, and you listen to Steele on the pregame, and he acts like he just doesn't want to get destroyed. Like he just hopes that they, can pull out 5 rounds on the 2 maps that they played. Well, in that first map, they were blown out. I don't remember the final score, 16-3 or something. That wasn't really close at all. And then we just kind of thought that, and that was Chaos's map pick at Inferno. Team Liquid doesn't really have any weaknesses in their map pick, so they went to I think it was Mirage, and they just fell apart. Steele had a crazy ace at the end of that map to really kind of push them ahead and not have to go back to an eco round. It was just insane to see Team Liquid fall apart, especially after listening to Elige interview prior to this match, where he just wanted to put a stomping on a weaker opponent. Chaos with 2 new players, and just they've hardly even practiced or played together. So I think that was just a fun game to watch as a fan. My lineup, I use Nath in the flex. I think optimally, you probably maybe would have taken Elige out of the captain role and moved Nath up there. But in a 1-game slate, 9 times out of 10 with somebody like Elige, he's going to be in a captain role for me, unless there's a clear upgrade in the other flex spot for the opponent, which I didn't really feel like that was the case. But the most amazing part of this whole matchup, and that, after the first map, I think I was up 18. After the second map, I was down 14. And here I finished by winning by 30. And I will credit most of that success to Janji playing his first game with Chaos. He had 2 points that included rounds not played after the first 2 maps. You look at his score, he ended with 56. He had 2 4-kills rounds in map 3. He had over 30 kills. I don't remember what the final ratio was, but wow. I mean, that is CSGO is variance. And just like you think you got it won, you think you're out of it, and then he does something like that. So, I mean, just know that, variance is certainly a thing here. Team Liquid minus 600 favorite, goes down 2-1 to Chaos. So I think just as you're building, just know that there's definitely elements of variance here when somebody like Janji just coming out of nowhere on the 3rd map with a 30 kill round, probably his first of his career. I don't know. I'd have to look, but that was pretty phenomenal against a team like Team Liquid. So I was really happy about my Showdown builds. Made most of my, I made more than my money back on Classic. If I bump over here to Classic, I was really disappointed in myself of not getting Hunter. It came down, and actually because I felt like I really wanted Elige, that really forced me into Stewie K. So, I really did love Twist more. And comparing to this lineup that I played against, that only played 2 Astralis and played Magisk and not Dupree, where he had that 12-point advantage. And even Zippix didn't really perform that well if you compare to how Kenny S and Hunter did. So Australis sweeping while also not really playing that well besides device was definitely, and Magisk really hurt long term in my builds. I really should have stuck to my twist gun that I went back to in Showdown, but I just felt that need to get a liege while also keeping 3 Australis. So I think when you're building, don't try to get too narrow-minded on like, I need 3 from this team, because I think sometimes the raw stats and the player itself just presents that much more upside. And I think you can't depend on a sweep, especially in these slates where you just don't know. It's teams that are not always familiar with each other. Obviously, Elige has not seen chaos in a while, so that was something that was, and not seen that roster. And we have a lot of roster changes, even tomorrow, with who is coming. Oh yeah, Mayern is out for MIBR, and they're bringing in TRK. So that pushes that the IGL role actually for MIBR is Fallen, who's one of their best players. So again, as Ryan and I talked about yesterday, he is one of those players similar to Nexa that can be in the IGL role, but also perform really well. So I hope you guys enjoyed our breakdown. I will have another one tomorrow. Ryan and I are planning on a weekly Monday one. So if you really enjoyed having that combo, be looking out for that. Subscribe to our channel. It helps you get notified when we have other content posted. We have KBO, NASCAR. We have everything. So just be on the lookout for that. Call of Duty should be out tomorrow. Probably will have 2 videos up for esports tomorrow. So again, give us a like, give us a subscribe, follow us on Twitter. Reach out to me if you're interested in coming on and just talking CSGO, DFS. I think it is awesome for me and for our viewers to get multiple perspectives on cash builds and GVP. All right, thanks a lot. Have a good night.